Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Untitled Reviews. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season finale of Yellowjackets. An amazing season finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, let's immediately start with the past stuff. We're immediately picking up in the aftermath of Javi's death, and obviously it's that heartbreaking moment where you have Travis being so happy Natalie's back and it's okay, but she doesn't really say anything to him because she can't. And then the rest of the team comes in like with Javi's body. And for Travis, it's like, no, this can't be. That's the sad thing. Once again, that's got to eat him up because he's the one that saved Natalie and it led to his brother dying. But it is also the thing of you kind of have to accept it because we all unilaterally made this decision, but it's still like you interfered and you're like, by interfering to save Natalie, I killed my brother. I'm torn between the two people I care about. This is my brother, the person I'm supposed to love and protect. And there's the woman I love. Like, what do you do? You know, he never knew it was going to turn out like this, but you know, the wilderness wants what it wants, right? So it's just, not saying I agree, but I'm just saying from their perspective, that's it. And it's just, what I think is so interesting is when they ultimately, when Misty ends up going to Lottie, and Lottie's like, what? No, this isn't what I wanted. But Misty's like, no, you're not going to make anyone feel bad about this. Like, you're the one that kind of started this. You have to accept it, which I'm like, that's so fascinating. So Misty kind of put it on Lottie, but Misty was also being like, no, you can't put it all on us. You're the one that... You're the one that Lottie didn't want the leadership role. She kind of fell into it. It is the thing of like, she's the one that could hear the wilderness and embraced it and everything. Yes, but it is this situation of she was the one kind of forced on that pedestal because eventually everyone else started following her. And I guess she didn't push back against it enough, but it's like, right. She was like, if I die, let me be the one that sustain us. She's not the one that said like, oh, we should do this. We should pick someone. But it's like, no, you are too important. We need you to be our leader. So you have to basically like ovary up and get it done type of situation. What is that from? I don't remember now. Like, instead of nut up, it's ovary up. I forgot what TV show I got that from. Oh God, I legitimately can't remember, but that was like a phrase from a TV show, I think. Either way, so it's a situation of like, right, you've got to kind of accept things as they are. But like I said, that position was kind of pushed on her. And it's ironic for anyone to be saying that to her, it being Misty. It's double ironic considering it's literally all your fault that they were out here for an extended... I mean, who knows how long it would have been before they were found if it wasn't for Misty. We can never, ever forget that this is completely and utterly all Misty's fault. To some degree. She's not the one that crashed the plane. She is the one that stranded them for 19 months. Once again, we don't know, like, it could have been a couple months. Like, so every death and everything. So maybe that's also, like, you can't help but feel like that is a little of Misty projecting because it's like, yeah, because of your leadership and everything. It's like, yeah, you're the one that stranded us here. You're also the one that killed your only friend out here. So it's like, ugh, you know? But also, once again, Misty was always had her issues and that's the thing. The wilderness just amplified what was probably like the deepest, darkest recesses of each of these characters. It was always there. The wilderness just brought it to the surface. When Shauna was dealing with Javi's body, I thought, and maybe that's the significance of the mask. Maybe not, just to kind of separate themselves from it. I mean, at least Shauna like covered her eyes because she just didn't want to see what she had to do. It's actually sad too because I did let it slip my mind. Javi had the hugest crush on Shauna. So, but it's also like he's also the youngest of them. So it is this thing of like she wasn't ready to do it when it came to Natalie and. Well, because this is her first time having to do it. She's had to prepare food before, but, like, obviously the Jackie thing is just like her body cooked, and we all tore off pieces. Like, it's not like, this is her first time having to prepare a human, so I kind of, like, let that slip my mind as well. So, it is a thing of, yes, it's Javi, he's younger than them, maybe Shauna was kind of aware he kind of had a crush on her, but the biggest thing is, this is the first time she ended up having to prepare a human. We know it won't be the last. So... But I thought that was just how that was done, where it's just like, right, she blindfolds herself, slides her hand up his body to find like the artery and like stabs it so it's easier to bleed out. you have Ben coming back being like, yo, what's going on here? And he's like, right, I found a place that Natalie, me and you, we're the normal ones. We can just go. But Natalie's like, no, I'm the worst of them because it shows me and Javi's dead now because of me, because that self-preservation kicked in and I didn't want to die. And Javi's dead because of me. So you, Ben, are a good person. You should go. So that in conjunction with Van's conversation, it definitely feels like Van's kind of like taking a turn in her own right, especially amongst the characters. Like she is one of the people that did embrace this wilderness and all this a lot more. She's someone that embraced Lottie and Taissa a lot quicker than everyone else did, especially on the Lottie front, I think. But Missy was kind of like right there beside her, but I think Van is kind of. I think Van's going to be a very key person going forward just because it feels like they're setting up like she's kind of filling that void to some extent with just the way the episode ends, but we'll get to that soon enough. But Van was telling Travis, it's like, right, none of us should feel ashamed. I don't feel ashamed, and you shouldn't feel ashamed either because we are just surviving. The wilderness chose, and it chose Javi. He's been through a lot here. Like, don't you owe it to him to survive? Let him be the reason why you're able to live. It's kind of like your brother gave you a gift of survival. And it's like, yeah, but also decades of trauma and guilt, you know, that isn't just going to like magically go away, interestingly enough. So, but they end up preparing everything, and ultimately, Travis ended up. It is, I guess, symbolizing like they needed kind of like his okay, and it's like, okay, so he ends up biting the heart and then throwing on a skillet. I guess like I don't know if that means he's getting the main piece of the heart. It kind of goes to him because he's family, or it's just probably like the symbolism of like when it comes to a hunt, like it's tradition. It's like a tradition. I don't know if that's like a Native American tradition or like is that just? Cause I know it's a hunter's tradition. It's like I think it's the heart, isn't it? That might not have Native American roots. That might just be something like, cause I think present day hunters kind of do it, where it's like, right, you eat the heart of the animal, or at least you take a bite out of it. The symbolism of like taking it in, it's like your way of embracing like what you've killed and making it a part of yourself, type of thing. Like ahead of it's all part of the process of paying respect and tribute to the thing that you've killed. I think maybe I'm completely mistaken in that regard. But yeah, cooking up the heart, and then everyone else picks up their pieces of meat, throws on a skillet. Everyone eats. And it's like Misty being like, yo, you got to get your shit together, Lottie, and lead us. So that's happening. And then ultimately, I love that Van was the one like it's story time. Can you tell us another story, Van? It's like, cool, I got this. And before she could even finish, like she was going to talk about the wilderness. I was like, oh, this is a little, I mean, maybe it's kind of inappropriate to be telling this story at this time, but then it's like, nah, that immediately gets interrupted because Lottie says like, right, I thought I was chosen, but I played my role. The wilderness doesn't need me anymore because I thought I was kind of its chosen one because I could hear it when no one else can. But you've all learned to hear it. So it's already chosen its next, kind of like Avatar, its next chosen person. And I love that you see Misty kind of, because Taissa looks up and so does Misty. And Misty was so happy. I was like, oh, sadly, it's not you, Misty. No, we already know it's not you, Misty. But Misty was so happy, like, oh, is it me? Because she never gets chosen, you know? And I guess arguably you could say she finally did get chosen to some extent, but we'll circle back to that as well later on. But the person they chose was Natalie. That shocked me because I was like, whoa, so Natalie's the one with the horns. The antlers. I was like, that's interesting. Wow. Because my thought was like, right, if it's not Lottie, I was thinking for a while, so right, it probably won't end up being Lottie because that is super obvious, but I'm like, it's going to end up being Taissa or Van. Those were my number one guesses, well, number 1 and 2 guess. I felt more Taissa than, but I was starting to kind of feel like it might be Van. Never would have guessed Natalie, especially because she is the one who ended up pushing back against it so much. She was the latecomer to all of this, but maybe it's also like, right, that's why she was chosen. I mean, let's not forget, it also feels fitting because obviously, like, well, she didn't kill her dad, but she does carry a lot of guilt about her dad dying and the environment she grew up in. Then you also add in her and Travis were the hunters of the group, so it feels very like poetic for it to be her. It's like, right, it already chose. The reason why it chose Javi over Natalie, because Natalie is supposed to be the person, its champion, its liaison of sorts. So that's why it's chose Javi to be the sacrifice, because it needs Natalie. So now you're like, oh, this explains why Natalie, like, arguably they're all messed up, but you could say like Natalie might be a little bit more messed up. Now it probably makes a little more sense, of even more so, like, yeah, I mean, they've all went through what they did, but Natalie co-signed so much of it by being their leader. So, and that's also why, I guess you could make the argument that's why she lashed out against, like, hey, Misty, you crazy bitch, and why she was so quick to, like, jump at Lottie, because, to be fair, they are the ones that kind of, like, Misty kind of pushed Lottie, but then Lottie was like, no, I'm not the chosen one, it's Natalie. So oh, dude. And Ben, like, came back to the camp because he was getting stuff, so that he picked up the axe and stuff because he tried to, like, light a fire in that spot that Javi had, but it didn't work. I guess it's because you weren't given that chance. Like, you found that place, you weren't welcomed there. Like, maybe, like, the argument is, like, Javi was able to survive there for, like, a month or two, like, 1 or 2 months, because no, it's definitely 2 months, because he was chosen and led there. You weren't invited, so maybe that's supposed to be the thing. But Ben came back and he watched everything. He watched Natalie get chosen as, like, well, the chosen one. And you could tell Misty, it kind of bothered her, because when she kind of kneels down, she kind of looks up, you're like, oh, she's not. I think she kind of accepted it, but I don't think she was, it's still the thing of, like, I thought it was going to be me. So we'll get back to Ben in a second. What I thought was really interesting is when it came to Shauna writing, and that first line being, this is when she started the journals, I guess, maybe. I don't think we've seen, no, yes, she did already, I forgot, she already had the journals, because that's where Jackie found out about the Jeff and the baby, so it's like she'd already been doing it, I forgot. We just don't see her writing much, so it does slip my mind, like, yeah, that was already a thing. Either way, what I thought was so fascinating was the first line being, how could it not be me? Now I'm like, how to interpret that line? That line can be interpreted two ways. One, how could it not be me? After everything I've done, I deserve to be the one that dies. Like, this would have been my escape from everything. Having to be the one that has to, like, cause I'm the one that slices and fillets all the food. Like, this would have been my opportunity to kind of escape everything that I was and the darkness in me. Like, there's that side of things. But then on the other side, it's like, could she be talking about, how could it be that I'm not the one? Why was it Natalie? I'm the one who has to slice and fillet the bodies. I'm the one that lost everything. I lost the baby. I'm the one that sacrificed and lost so much to this wilderness. You know, and even that line where she was like, I thought Jackie made me feel invisible, and it stops. But we don't, what was that but going to be? You know? That, I guess, once again, it all comes down to there was stuff already inside of them that the wilderness brought forward. So Shauna's already been a little, like, lost and kind of broken in her own regards. And it wasn't Jeff, the whole Jeff behind, like, I mean, it happens, you know, it's not like that makes her, like, the most horrible person. But I think it is a symptom of something larger where it's like, right, she's been trying to feel this void inside of herself, and we see that kind of continue as a trend even in her adulthood. But I was like, interesting. And then we got the ending being what it is of, like, the past section where Ben set the effing cabin on fire, because when he got there, I was like, and he was looking at Natalie and them, I was like, he's not going, oh, I was like, for a second I thought he was going to burn the place down with them all inside. He super did. It's like, he sure wasn't around. How else would the fire start in that cabin? Luckily, they all got out, but I'm like, oh, you are fucked, Ben. You are super fucked. Dude, I already knew you were already on the chopping block regardless, because, once again, he's the one that did not eat any of Jackie. It's like, how the hell have you been surviving then, is what I'm curious about. Well, I mean, I guess he's like, his body's been kind of in its trance where he's kind of going off to be with Paul, but yeah, him doing that. And it's like, cool. Not only did he attempt to kill the girls, but they're all still alive and they're going to know you did it. Like, not unless they make it seem like, oh, maybe it was an accident, but Natalie's probably going to be quick to be like, I know Ben did it. She'll probably have her reservation, but it's probably like, nah, Ben's next up on the chopping block. I mean, that's the thing. You should have stayed behind to make sure the job was done, because if you didn't, like, now you're screwed. Once again, maybe I'm completely wrong. I immediately was like, it was Ben, but maybe it's like, oh, maybe the wilderness, it gives and it taketh away. But I feel like, no, he just happened to be outside the cabin earlier and now it's in flames. And now it's like, cool, they have nothing. I mean, it's like, well, we know one spot you could be, so maybe that's also poetic. He ends up burning down this place. He's staying in his spot, but his spot's about to be hijacked because, once again, he was never chosen to find that place. Like, maybe you make the argument, Javi was chosen. He was led to that place. He was meant to be there. Coach isn't. It's like he refuses to embrace all of this. He thinks he's better. And maybe that's also goes back to the Paul thing of he's not ready. And now it's like oh yeah, now you're the next sacrificial lamb of like, they'll find, because we don't know if any of those, they grabbed as much as possible, but we don't know if they have the map of the place anymore. So Ben might be in hiding and they might not be able to find him. Well, the thing is, Nat knew that Javi was going to a very specific tree, but she probably doesn't have the map laid out anymore. That's also poetic too, like she and Travis were the ones mapping out the woods, so for it to be her to lead or not, I don't know. But you also got the thing of, well, there is smoke in the air now, so that caused a big enough fire that it might help to lead to them getting found sooner. Because once again, we don't know how much time has kind of passed. Like, it's very ambiguous. Like, at least we had the baby to give us some idea of like, okay, so we're definitely post 9 months at this point in time because of Shauna's baby. But that's still, once again, that left us like 10 months out there in the wilderness. So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that. But it's like, yeah, they survived. Now they're like without the cabin, but it's like, once again, maybe that was a sacrifice and now it's going to play a larger role in them being found, but also they'll find some other means, because it's like, right, because we don't, it's interesting, they don't have the cabin as shelter anymore, and it's still, at least seems like it's still in a dead middle of winter, so I don't think it's as bad, but it's going to be, so they had the blankets and stuff, so we'll ultimately have to wait and see where things kind of go on that front. And then finally, let's circle over to present day, where we're picking up where things left off there, where Lottie's like, yeah, we got to do this. And Shauna's like, you're 100% right. Everyone's like, what? But Shauna's gaslighting Lottie. And it's like, well, what are we going to do? It's like, well, we can't, like, we got to, like, play along. We got to, like, what do we do? And it's like, well, we can, like, have her committed again. Because it's like, yeah, Lottie's kind of, like, batshit crazy in this moment. So we need to do something about that. And Misty's like, well, I am like a nurse, so I'll be able to like convince her doctors like, oh, she needs to be like institutionalized again. So Van not wanting things to play out like that does make me, especially with Ty says later on singing the line of like, wait, you wanted things to kind of turn this way. It, once again, it feels like Van's embracing this a lot more than the others were. Part of me was almost wondering, was she fine with it? Because it's like, well, she's actually the one that started it. Like, back then. She was the one that started the card thing. So now, because that was supposed to be the thing of like, right, we're going to like hunt again. The only way, if we're not going to do it this way, we're going to do it like how we used to. I mean, that was Shauna's idea, just to kind of placate Lottie, but still. Because they are the ones who, Van and Thais are the ones that are like, right, well, specifically Van was like, right, we can't lock her up again. Like, is that going to be like the means of like, is that really going to help her? That's not going to do her any good. But it's like, because it's like, and she made Van feel sympathetic, in fact, empathetic by being like, right, do you think it would help you? Because it's like, out of anyone, you also would deserve to be locked up as well. Because it's like, because Van also takes it upon her being like, it's not Lottie's fault, it's ours. We're the ones that made her this way because we pushed her into being this person that communed and connected with the wilderness. So how can we blame her for being off her rocker when we made, like, for one, we all are in our own shape or form, but especially Lottie, because we put a lot of like what went down there. Like we put a lot of that blame on her, like it was all her fault, but we made our own choices, which is even something Shauna was saying later on. There was no it out there in the woods nor wilderness. That was only us. But Lottie says a line of, does it make a difference? Because whether you believe in it being something else, which she does, or whether you just think like Shauna, like it's just all on them, it is in them, but it's like regardless of it, it's still a hunger and it's still a something inside of them that they still need to feed, regardless of it really being a personification of something supernatural, something evil, or just at least something in those woods, or whether it's just a personification of what's just already inside of them that bubbled to the surface. Because of the wilderness. But either way, what I love though too is like, as this is all happening, every storyline is converging. Natalie is trying to get Lisa to leave because it's like, right, I don't want you around here. Just live your life. And I appreciate you trying to like teach me about kind of forgiveness, because it's like the person she can't forgive the most is herself. And once again, now we have more context of like, she feels the most responsible of everything because she was the chosen one. The guilt of, oh, it's supposed to be me. Oh, but then like Javi ended up dying in my place. And I think she kind of got swept up in the like, oh, maybe this was meant to be. So she was able to subside that guilt. But after all these years, like now back in society, it stayed inside of her. And that led to the drinking and the drugs. Like that's what led to all of her substance issues. But then we have Walter showing up like I figured he would, because he did pick up a purple outfit like the last time we saw him last episode. He shows up to help Misty. I was like, yay! And it's so cute. He had to have gotten her like voicemail. They didn't talk about it this episode, but it's like, yeah. Especially because Misty's like, yeah, my boyfriend Walter, which actually I think he'd be super hyped about her referring to him as her boyfriend. So that happens. Callie and Jeff are on the way. It's like, wait, are we going to let mom get arrested? It's like, no. He's like, I don't know. We just got to figure this all out. And it's like, it's like, yeah, and your mom tried to shoot a guy. It's like, mom tried to shoot. It's like, yeah, no, but it was like, she didn't. I took the gun away from the guy was trying to carjack us. It's like, oh, wait, so you have a gun? And he's like, no, that's not what I'm saying. It's put away somewhere else. And she's about to go for the glove box. He's like, don't do that. Like, just leave it alone. And it's like, cool. Then they also saw the cultiness of the facility and be like, this is where you sent mom? All right, let's go a different direction. Matt and Kevin show up. You're like, dude, every storyline's converging in this moment, and I love it. And I love when Kevin shows up and he's talking to Walter. I was like, oh, and Walter's like, I'm going to call the cop. Wait, you're a cop? Oh my God, you're a full-blown detective. I am too. I mean, he's like, well, I mean, the fact is, he has asthma, so he can never be a cop. But he's like, yeah, I am a citizen detective and everything. And I love Jeff seeing Kevin and telling Callie, like, go find your mom. I'll handle this. I was like, boy, oh boy. And the way Walter, because Walter probably did because he already knew about Misty, so he probably did research on like probably the moment he found out about Misty, like he always found her interesting. Once again, he says like the Yellowjacket stuff for him is like, that's the least interesting thing about you. So he probably did his research on everyone else as well. But I love like the Kevin situation, and Jeff is like, it's me, Kevin. I'm the one, arrest me. And he's like, oh, Jeff. I was like, did he what's going on? And Kevin passes out and it's like, oh my God, Kevin, I didn't do this. But it's like, hey, Jeffrey, focus. He's like, does anyone call you Jeffrey? He's like, yeah, my mom. I mean, no, she doesn't. I'm like, wait, so does she or does she not? Is he saying like, she calls me Jeffrey, but then he got embarrassed? He's like, no, my mom doesn't call me Jeffrey. Or is it a thing of like, no, I just got scared in a moment and freaked out with everything going on that I lied. So it's like, right, I know who you are, Jeff. Come on, let's kind of help me with the body. I'm like, which I think it was only meant to knock him out. It didn't actually kill him, did it? I actually don't know. I forgot what Walter had said. So I guess Walter like filled Misty in on like the plan and stuff like that, because she does later on say like, wait, this isn't what we had. No, like we called them not too long ago, and like Tyson and Van were like, wait, who's we? It's like, yeah, I didn't have time for that side of conversation. The moment we found out Callie had the gun, though, I was like, oh my God, the wilderness is going to choose again. Callie's going to show up to save her mom, and she's going to end up killing one of the others. I thought that's how that was going to go. It didn't. I was about to say it could go really bad when she's got the gun, and Matt's like, oh, show me both your hands. And it's like, right. Jeff and Walter lead Matt into a trap with Kevin. And it's like, I guess he was already dead. Maybe it wasn't a thing of he was knocked out. Like, maybe that was meant to kill him, which is actually really sad because, like, Kevin's a good guy. He's a cop just doing his job. It's like, nah, we got to cover this bitch up. And so I thought that was wild where, like, Matt, like, opened the trunk and then it's like, oh my God, Walter grabbing the gun, pop, pop, pop. I was like, wait, did that really just happen? Oh, it sure did. And Walter's like, okay, Matt. So this is what's going to happen. You found out about your partner, Kevin. Oh my God, you're the new recruit trainee and everything. And oh my God, you caught your partner who was up to some crazy stuff. The fact of the matter is, oh no, he ended up killing Adam and jumped into the investigation. You also found out that he was responsible for Jessica's murder as well. I was like, dude, we're putting this all on Kevin? Which, you know, jumping ahead a little bit, I guess is a good thing Natalie never found out because I don't think she'd be too happy because it's like, she liked Kevin. It's like, once again, that was her best friend. There was already something there before they ended up getting lost in the wilderness. And it's like, she liked Kevin, but it's just like, she could never like escape herself to kind of let that be something. But I was like, oh, that sucks. Kevin's actually a good dude. And it's just like, it's just kind of a shame. Out of anyone, let it be that. But it's like, nah, if the setup was the other way, that's why it had to be Kevin. Because they probably knew like Matt's slimy enough to accept it. Kevin would be too upstanding to do it. He's too much of a good guy to do it. Matt's just enough of a piece of shit to accept it. I mean, to be fair, it's also like, Walter made it clear too, like, yeah, you could either go with this narrative. He's like, you can kind of either go with this narrative or I can make all the evidence we were going to point towards Kevin go towards you. So he was kind of screwed either way, but it's like, hey, this way you look out smelling like roses and you come out looking great. So, which I think it is beautiful later on. Like Callie did the whole performance thing in front of him when he's around the other cops in the aftermath of everything. He's putting on a performance of a lifetime. I'm like, I love the irony and the juxtaposition with that, you know? So I guess you can make the argument he learned from her of like, well, she learned how to put on a performance. I'm going to take her performance and I'm going to apply it to my situation, you know, so. But when it came to the wilderness situation, they, okay, we've got this all set up. We've got the mask. Let's do this. And they start handing out the cards and they go through the deck once. And it's like, okay, I was like, oh, we're going to keep going. It's Russian roulette until someone gets the bullet. Except this is a 52 card deck. Roughly speaking. So we keep going and going and going. It was like, who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? You know, once again, very moments like that, especially me saying who's it going to be, just makes me, just feel like such a Monokuma thing. But either way, it being Shauna was interesting, which ties into that line of like, how could it not be me? Now it's like, well, it is now, but now the argument could be, in the grand scheme of things, what that represented back then versus what it means now. But Shauna was like, wait, we're not really going to do this. Cause it's like, no, you guys, it was supposed to be an act. I think Natalie and Misty were playing into it. I don't 100% know what Tyson Van. Like, it might just be a thing of all four of them, including Lottie, but five, if you can include Lottie, all got swept up in it. At least Lottie was all about it already. The other four might have just gotten swept up in like, oh, it kind of felt nostalgic. And it's like, yeah, this is kind of super jacked up. So Shauna's running. Callie shows up. Callie ends up shooting, Lottie, not killing her, but wounding her. And it's like, oh, this is your daughter? Oh, she's got like that. She's so strong. It's like, it is sad that like, it's that thing again of like Shauna's darkness, like came over to her daughter. Cause like, yeah, Callie was already messed up, but it's like, that's the thing. Like Jeff is messed up in his own right, which I even love. Callie was like, yeah, like, oh, this is actually all on you, Dad, with your lame attempt to blackmail Mom is kind of what snowballed a lot of this. Jeff didn't know what he was messing with, essentially, when he started all that. So it's like, I mean, arguably you could say like, this is well beyond, maybe the argument could be that this was always going to be what it was because of everything that they went through. But it's like, yeah, he jump-started, I mean, him in conjunction with Thaisa jump-started all this. Her hiring Jessica to see if anyone else was, talking about all of this. But I mean, there's also like the Natalie and Travis of it all might have jump started all of this too. It's hard to really say what was a pop. I mean, obviously the initial point is, yo, us getting lost 25 years ago, but it's still the thing of, yeah, but still, what kind of popped it all off all these years later? Like, who was the true catalyst of it all? But Lottie kept making her point about Natalie being chosen back then, that this was always kind of on her, which obviously she doesn't like it because that's her biggest regret of like, no, if I had just died back then, like none of this, I wouldn't have to be where I am, like probably make the argument in her head. I'm not saying I agree with, but in her mind, it's probably like, right, if I had died, like maybe Travis would still be alive right now, because the only reason why he put himself in that position to die and kill himself is because of what I said when I overdosed and was on the other side. And, you know, that made him want to do it. Once again, the whole Natalie was right element to it. And then Lisa shows up. I was like, oh boy, is Lisa going to die? And Missy was ready to do it. And in that moment, Natalie remembers what happened to Javi. It's like, I didn't save him then. And that was my biggest regret. And she takes the needle. And it's like, I was like, no way. Dude. I was like, this is wild. I mean, it's poetic in so many regards. Just as we're learning about Natalie being the one chosen, because I think chronologically inside the episode, just that like this happens just after we had learned that Natalie was chosen to be the leader, the one with the antlers. In the past, she's chosen to be the victim, but it's also because she wasn't chosen back then, but she was chosen now. But arguably, you could say like, right, it's the same thing as back then, meaning Shauna is the now chosen one who has to kind of fill that void now. And once again, I thought it was going to kind of be Van, but arguably we go by what the card shows. It's Shauna. It's like, oh, I guess I should have expected it because of course there was going to be a flip of the script because that's what happened with the Javi and Natalie thing. So of course it was going to happen again. But for Natalie, it's like, for one, she wasn't going to let Lisa die. It's like, this is on me. I'm the bad person. And for Misty, this is heart wrenching because it's like, it's the second time too. Oh my God, I just thought about this. It's the second time she's killed a bestie. She did it once again, the Kristen's thing was an accident. This was an accident too. And now it's like, and Natalie being back on that plane and she's like, this isn't where I'm supposed to be. But it's like, no, this is always meant to be where you're supposed to be. We both know it. It's like, it was Javi that was there, then young Natalie saying like, we never left this. This has always been a part of us. And then Lottie beside her, like touching her, saying like, it's not evil. Just let it kind of take you. And I think just kind of giving into it. But I'm like, oh, dude, like I said last episode, I was like, I mean, they're all key characters, but I'm like, I mean, would they go through the trouble of killing Van, even though we met her present day? But I'm like, well, to be fair, we lost Travis, even though he's a key character in the past and stuff. And I was like, it feels like any one of them can go. Once again, I didn't expect Natalie, so her being chosen in so many regards was quite the surprise across the board. I was like, that's nuts. And now it's obviously just an overdose situation. Lisa did overhear all that stuff. I'm curious what that means for her. I mean, it's kind of on her. If she had probably just left, Natalie would have probably still be alive. But she heard all the stuff that went down. It's like, I don't remember if Lisa has the context of everything that they went through in the wilderness. I don't know, but that all, dude. I also think it's interesting that at no point did either Travis show up, like as in like neither past Travis nor, I mean, to be fair, because even look at Lottie, it wasn't even present day Lottie, it was teenage Lottie. So I'm like, it's interesting that it wasn't even like teen Travis or whatever. Because at least you could say like, well, it's all the teen characters because obviously there's only teen Javi because there is no other Javi. There's also teen Lottie and teen Nat there, her younger self being a representation of everything. It's just like, yeah, just like we were always here. We never escaped it. So Lottie's getting shipped off to a facility and Thaisa and Van are like, no, we're there. But for Lottie, it's like, no, like it's satisfied. And there's this look on Van's face that once again, why I was saying like, it seemed like Van might be all about this because I don't know if that's kind of supposed to be representative of that spark she was missing for so long. It's finally back in her life again. I don't know if that's what that's supposed to represent, but it felt like there was, maybe it was me, but it was like, that looked like there was a smile creeping across her face, but maybe I'm completely wrong in that regard. I don't know. Either way, everything has been resolved because it's like, cool, Kevin's taking the fall for everything, which I'm also like, yeah, I guess that's kind of a good, sadly, Nat doesn't have to live with the fact is that Kevin died, but it's like Kevin died and everything kind of falls on him and you died, but maybe on some level, you're kind of free of all of this. Now you're also able to be with Travis in some shape. Well, that's like me trying to find some silver lining, and I'm like, that sucks, dude. Because like I said, I think they've all been tortured, but I do feel like, once again, I feel like Nat was the most tortured of them. And I think, once again, this episode gave us a lot more context. Like, she had every reason to be tortured, like, even from what we already had, because she was the one that was most against a lot of stuff. And now it is a thing of she has even more guilt now. Now we have more context for more of her guilt on how things kind of played out. And what this means going forward because of Misty, having, her and Walter, at least he's there to comfort her as she lost her best friend, being responsible for killing her best friend. Once again, what the Lisa thing turns into, what happens to that place now that Lottie's getting locked up again, is Van or Taissa going to kind of run that place or something? And also Shauna, where she like looks at Callie, where it's just like, well, she's kind of been chosen, but it's also like, right, my daughter witnessing all that. It's like, my daughter was already fucked up. Let's not mince words. She was already messed up. She's even more fucked up. And it's like, the same thing happened to her, where it's like, I was already kind of messed up. The wilderness just made me more messed up. And once again, now she was chosen at the end. So how could it not be me? And it is. In whatever capacity, in the capacity that I'm leaning towards thinking she wanted to be chosen as the one to lead everything. How could it not be me? Why couldn't I be the one leading the charge? But now it seems like maybe you are. I don't know. It's going to be wild to see where the show goes from here. I mean, where do we go from here in the aftermath? Like, present day, it's like, Jeff and Shauna have a lot to figure out. Taissa's got a lot to figure out. Let's not forget Van also has a limited amount of time because she has cancer. What happens to Misty now that, she has Walter, but once again, she lost Nat in the process. So this is the last time we see of Lottie. What about the other survivors? What roles are they going to play going forward? What happens now that it's like, hey, the wilderness, it was satisfied. It got what it needed. So are they safe for a while or what? I don't know what to fully expect going forward present day. And obviously we have all the ideas about what the past is going to include, also with the bin of it all. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into season 3, because the show was renewed for a 3rd season. I already knew that, but I didn't know until looking it up. The show got renewed like back in December for a 3rd season. I was like, that's 3 months before the 2nd season even started airing, so that's wild. I do know the show stopped production. This is one of the shows that was halted because of the writer's strike. I don't know if it's like just the production was shut down, because I don't know if there's still like, I don't know if like all the scripts for season 2 were done. For season 3 are done, or did they just like stop the writing process, or like, I don't know where in the phases of production they were. I just know that this is a show that was shut. A lot of shows have gotten the production shut down, but this is definitely one of the ones I heard. So whenever we do get season 3, obviously it's going to be delayed from whatever it might have originally been planned to be, just because of the writer's strike. But I'm so excited to see where season 3 takes us with all of this. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.